Alright, so before this video gets started officially, I do want to say the opinions mentioned in this video are not my own, and they are stuff I found online. If you do agree with them, if you're one of those people that does have that opinion, do let me know, your reasoning behind it, because I am interested to kind of hear it from somebody who may think that. But yeah, these aren't my own thoughts, this is just someone, well, multiple people on the internet that have this kind of opinion about the DLC. Anyway, so Separate Ways is probably for the most people a big hit. I'm a big fan of it. I played it through, at the time of making this video, I've played it through about 3 times now, and I enjoy it every time. It's very good. But there are things, well, there are people online who think there are things in the DLC that make it subpar, that make it not worth the money, and again, I don't agree with it, but regardless, there are 2 big points about why that is I do want to go over today. So we'll kind of briefly go over each one and then kind of talk more in depth about each point. So yeah, without further ado, let's get into what people think about Separate Ways on the flip side of the coin. Alright, so it goes without saying, with the base game, there are changes made, okay? There's no question that the game is not a one-for-one of the original game. There are things that have been cut, and there are things that have been added in its place, and that's pretty much fine in the main game, but one of the big standout points people don't like about the DLC is not only is there parts from the DLC, well, the original DLC that is cut from the Remake's version, but things that were cut from the main game take up some time in the DLC. Essentially, this has led people to say that they're paying for stuff that should have been in the main game to begin with, and I don't necessarily agree that it's like a big chunk of the DLC. In fact, I think it's very small, apart from like 1 bit maybe. I think I can genuinely count on one hand like how many parts from the original 4 are in the DLC for the remake, and it's not as much of the DLC as you would think. So I do want to kind of go over the main ones that I've noticed. If there's more, then do let me know. But the main ones I've noticed are the gondola section that is now part of the island for Ada, which was a big shock to me. Like, I always thought the gondolas at the very start of the game would be the ones you use. Not the case. There's a whole section for it on the island, which is a nice surprise for me, actually. Next up, we had the, now this bit's really hard to explain, the drill section. So a massive drill comes out of a wall in the original game, and you have to shoot the drivers of it before it gets to you. In the remake of the Separate Ways DLC, it's there as well. Different kind of situation. Again, I don't want to show any footage of this stuff until I do my big in-depth video, but if you know what section I'm talking about, you'll know what it is. And that's in the remake. Again, it lasts like a minute, so it's not really that long. I'm sure everyone's seen it by now, but the layers of hallway from the original game is in the Separate Ways DLC in the remake, and again, it's like a 30-second quick time event. It's not really anything that long. And then the biggest thing, I think, that is in the DLC for the remake, that is from the main game originally, is the U3 boss fight. And not even all of the U3 boss fight, just the main fight with it. And a second phase, which is completely new to the remake. And again, it's one singular boss, and half of what was in the original isn't there, and there's a whole new section. So I don't necessarily agree that all of the old content, quote old content, from the original game takes up most of the DLC. In fact, I think there's more new areas and new encounters in the DLC than there is old stuff from the original DLC and the original game. I really do think it takes up a smaller part than what people think. But there's one opinion that's going around. Again, I don't agree with it. There's people out there saying, oh, it ruins the DLC, why am I paying for stuff that should have been in the game from the get-go? And I don't agree with that at all. It's such a minimal part. They're all very small sequences that have been put in because they make sense at the time. And, there's things that have been cut out from the original game that didn't make the cut. And one bit that I really think about is the big lava room in the castle. Like, that didn't make sense in the original, and it sure as shit doesn't make sense in the remake, so why have it at all? And it has been removed. The sections they put back in are fan favourite sections, so I really like the gondola section. I think that's really cool. Layers of sequence is very cool, and it's a lot more keeping with Ada's character than it is Leon, so it makes sense for her to do it. And the U3 boss fight was very fun, and they cut out the annoying part with like the cable cars and stuff. They cut out the awkward part of the fight and give you a completely new part of the fight, and the original like base level fight as well. So I don't really have an issue with it. But yeah, that is one kind of opinion about the DLC and how it's kind of added content from the base game of the original, which makes it a bit of a rip-off apparently. The second point is there being stuff from the original Separate Ways that is cut completely and just didn't come back at all. Again, two biggest areas I can think of is the Krauser fight with Ada and the submarine section near the end of the original DLC. So with the Krauser fight, if you've played the remake by now all the way through, which I'd imagine most people have, Leon very much kills him. Like there's this whole like cutscene after the fight where he personally like finishes him off, and that doesn't happen in the original. And you know, Ada rematches him, and it's fine. And then he dies permanently. But in the remake storyline, you know, Leon properly kills him, and there is more to Krauser with the remake, and I do want to make a video on that at some point soon. But if you know, you know. If you don't, you'll see in the video. But yeah, having Leon fully kill him, I think that made more sense for Leon to do because it's such like an important character to Leon's kind of background. So it makes sense. As with the submarine section, I vaguely remember it. I played through the original Separate Ways a bunch, and I think I really enjoyed it anyway. There is a very high combat sequence at the end of Separate Ways Remake DLC, and that kind of fits the tone of the submarine section, but I don't have an issue with that being removed at all. It was kind of just balls to the wall mental, and having it gone wasn't really any loss to me. Obviously there are people that disagree with me and think that, you know, the DLC and the main game in fact should be a 1-for-1. I don't think any of the remakes, especially 4, should have been a 1-to-1. A lot of those games were a thing of their time, and they need to change to kind of keep up with stuff. Whether that's the tone of the game, the gameplay of the game, what characters do and say, they will be updated. It will never be a 1-for-1. None of the remakes are a 1-for-1. They are very close to being, but none of them are like a mirror match of the original game. So yeah, they're the big two kind of reasons why people don't necessarily like the DLC. Now I do think it's more of a loud minority rather than like a completely, you know, it's not an opinion that every single player has. It's very kind of condensed to a small group of people, but you know, loud minority. There is another one, but again, it just falls back to the voice actor of Ada. People don't like it. If you don't like it, that's fine. Obviously, you know, leave the actress alone. She's just doing her job. If you don't like it, that's fine. Not everyone likes every voice actor ever made. It's fine. But I don't think that should be a reason not to buy it. I have seen that kind of mentioned a few times as well. I don't really agree with that. The gameplay and the story-wise, it's so much more worth it. And if you can just kind of deal with the voice if you don't like it to play it, I would really recommend you do. And yeah, that pretty much wraps it up. Again, to kind of fall back on what I said at the start of the video, these aren't my opinions. These are just ones I found online after playing through the DLC enough times. I thought, you know what, I'll go online, see what people think. And yeah, for the most part, people love it. People think it's great. And I am one of those people. Like, I think it's a very solid addition to the remake, and you know, it's worth the money that it costs. It's really cheap, so there's no reason not to pick it up. But as for those opinions, again, loud minority, I think. If any of you do necessarily have that same opinion, I'd really be interested to hear why that is. I try to keep my comment section, you know, as judge-free as possible, so don't be afraid to kind of jump in with your own opinions, because I think everyone tries to be nice in the comments on my channel, and if not, I usually deal with that. But yeah, thank you for coming by. Remember to leave a like on the video if you did enjoy, and subscribe if you are new for more Resident Evil content. I'll try and post every day, and I will have streams starting up again after the Christmas holiday. So yeah, look forward to that. But nevertheless, hope you all had a good holiday, and I'll speak to you all very, very soon.